Hello and welcome to a very sunny Bulgaria, as you can see over my shoulder and by the crazy contrast down the centre of my face. It is a glorious day here, and so I'm going to spend a little bit of time in the hobby room working on potentially the Ruined Watchtower and also some of the Sarissa buildings. I will take you over to the bench now, away from this unseasonable weather. It is amazing, and we will get on with the day. Now that everything is dried on the Ruined Watchtower, which took a long time because of the quantity of PVA I poured all over it, I'm ready for the next step, which is going to be using my homemade this foam cover, which will be taking the place of bushes, and covering over around the outside, and also putting some cover and flocks over this. Now, where the paint has dried glossy, I will be making that look like there is potentially some leaks or some dampness coming out from underneath this pile of rocks. So I'll be using some paints and also some flocks to do that. Let's get started. I think that's sufficient. In this case, less is probably more. There's splashes of colour. There's a little extra cover here for smaller models, and there's a bit of interest on top of the tower, which will be developed more. I have plenty of ideas about that. What you see here is my own flock, which I've made with basically whizzed up washing up pans, scourers, and PVA and paint. Very easy to do. I'll do a video on it, or you can search for any number of other YouTubers who have this technique, which is where I got the technique from. This does take some time. It's not a very quick process. I will be adding more PVA gently, slowly over the next couple of days as this goes off, to make sure that this dries rock solid and doesn't have any chance of coming off. If anyone has any better ways of doing this which require less PVA and less time, then please do share in the comments below. It's been a couple of days. I've let this dry with all these clamps in place. Now I'm pretty confident that this is going to be ready to be removed. And what I'm going to do is get the stain out, which is the same stain as I used on the upper part of this building, the African teak. And I'm going to put 1 or 2 coats of stain over this cladding. There we are, that's done. I'll put another coat on later. Next up is an annoying little task which I've been putting off, but I need to do now. When I plastered this, I neglected to plaster between the door frame here and the door frame here. So I need to put some very small amount of plaster between here, these gaps here, which is going to be quite fiddly, and I'm not going to film because it'll be really annoying to watch. So I've got to do that side, and I also have to do that side. You can see there. So see you on the other side. Wow, I did it, and it wasn't as bad as I was expecting actually. So now I'll let that go off, and I need to decide what colour I'm going to be painting these cardboard elements so that they look like stone, which is going to be an interesting decision for me to make. And also I need to decide if I'm going to leave the doors, which are all the original MDF, or build them up again with coffee stirrers and my own wooden stuff. So, but at least that's now done, and I can move on to the next step without that hanging over me. Next on the 28mm Sarissa build is something completely different. I picked these miniatures up from pendragon.co.uk so that I can put some pigs in the pigsty, and also maybe add some more interest, maybe a couple of goats as well. And I will also make use of some spare horses that I have left over from other SBG miniatures, which I will put into the stables. So what I'm going to do now is pick out which ones of these I'm going to do and start painting them up. I've picked out 2 28mm scale pigs and 3 from the 20mm, so they look like piglets, and also a couple of 28mm ducks. That will be, or geese maybe, that will be what I will be putting in this area. Now the roof will be going on this section permanently. I'm not going to have that removable so that I can then finish above it here. But this is going to have enough space so that a miniature can stand in if need be. I'll probably put a trough underneath this window as well. I don't want to fill it too much. I may change my mind, but that is where I'm looking at the moment. As awesome as these miniatures are, they do come on big pudding bases, which is quite annoying. So what I'm doing is taking my broken pair of snips, beard clippers if you will, and clipping off the base as I have already done on this miniature. That will allow me to sit them into the already prepared area without having to then redo it. If I had this again and had actually purchased these pigs and animals prior to working on the MDF building, I might have been able to get away with leaving most of that pudding base on, but as it is, I do need to clean it up. So I'm going to get back to my clipping and I will show you what they look like when I'm done. I have cut each of the small animals off of their pudding bases, apart from the 2 ducks or geese, because I figure I will cut them off when they're painted. And I'm trying a different technique for a painting aid, which is gluing them to this tongue depressor with normal PVA. I don't know if this will work. I have tried it before and I can't remember if it worked before or not, but we shall see, and you will find out just when I do, because we will find out together. I will now leave that all to dry before I will go ahead with priming these. We are back to the Ruined Watchtower and working on the bushes that I added the other day, and as I've said, you can see that they're very soft. I need them to be dried hard, so I'll be doing another application of PVA over these, and I will not be filming every one of these. I'll just tell you how many it ends up being. So that is application number 2. I expect there to be at least 2 more. The farm animals have stuck well to my tongue depressor with the PVA. So what I'm going to do now is get a metal file and just have a go at some of these mould lines. They're pretty good moulds. They don't have all that much to fix on them, to be honest. Just a little bit across the back. There we are. So now that's done, what I'll be doing is I'll be undercoating them. So I will set up here and I will invite you back again. That was a very quick clip when I'm ready. For these, I'm going to prime them using my Vallejo surface primer, and I will be going for the grey. This is because I'm probably going to go for some lighter colours, and certainly am on the ducks. So rather than my black, which I normally would do, I'm going to go grey. So I have given it a good shake before coming on camera. I have my trusty plastic palette, And now let's get priming. Okay, that'll do for now. I put a little bit too much primer out, which does annoy me. I normally like to be more frugal than that, but that's life. I will now let those to dry, and we'll come back later and do a second primer. This is supposed to be done via an airbrush, but I don't own an airbrush, so I use a brush, a hairy stick. They will look really nice when they're done. I'm very pleased with the sculpts. I'm very pleased that I bought them. Yesterday evening I came back up and did another coat of the primer on the pigs and on the, if that's going to focus, on the little ducks. So now I'm going to put the colour on them. And what I've done is what you should always do. I have looked for some pictures. I have gone onto Google, done a Google image search for pigs, and I've decided I'm going to do nothing particularly fancy. These are going to be pink pigs, which is what I think of when I think of pigs. I was tempted to do some maybe black and white ones, but they're going to be pink. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I will show you when I'm done. The battery is a little low on the camera, so I'm going to pop it on charge while I'm painting, otherwise I would attempt to do another close-up. It's not very long later, and I have done 2 coats on the farm animals. So pink pigs, as I've said, pink pigs, there we are, and little white ducks or geese or whatever they are, water birds. So that you know the paint colours I'm using for the pigs, I'm using Vallejo Model Colour Basic Skin Tone. Vallejo Model Colour Basic Skin Tone for the pigs, and then the geese or ducks or whatever they are being done in Vallejo Model Colour Foundation White. So that's that. I'll let them go off and see what other colours I want to add to them. Next on this MDF building I'm going to put some flock on the base. So I have my mixed up terrain glue, and I also have my homemade flocks in their big buckets that you've seen before. So here goes. And that is that. The flocking has dried on this now, and the next task I have is this ugly dollop of hot glue. Now I've been not hobbying very much for the last couple of days. I've been very busy on tourney, and so this has been bubbling in my mind, and the idea I've come up with, I'm going to try, is I'm going to build up layers of sand with paint. So I don't know if it's going to work, it might be rubbish, but it's worth a try. So I have just mixed up some more of my terrain paint. This is a very simple process. I'll be putting my paint over the daub. And then sprinkling my sifted sand. There we are. So now, that is basically long enough to leave it. I will empty that into my bucket, which is just below me here. Great YouTube content this. And as if by magic, what you can see is that, and I'll bring this a little closer in, what you can see is that the base of that tree is no longer horrible plastic. It is now a little bit like a raised area, like you would expect around a tree. So, who'd have thunked it? That seems to have worked very well. The next thing I would like to do on the Ruined Watchtower build is make use of the spare plaster mix, which is what I based and what I painted over the foam, and put that down as more rubble. It's a very nice consistency, and I think it will look really nice and contrast nicely with the rest of the grey. I'm also still putting on PVA to the areas. Now they're coming on. I think they've had 3 or 4 coats. Some of them are very hard and are finished, but this one back here is taking some time. So while I'm doing this, I will also apply a little more PVA, but I'm nearly there with that. So let's get started with some of this. I think I'm going to break some up into bigger chunks that looks a bit more like rock, and I'm going to break some up as dust. You can see just how hard this stuff actually is. It's actually quite difficult to break into chunks. That shows how strong this is going to be with it being painted on. And I think I am largely happy with how those little attachments are, those little additions. They just add a little bit more to the story. There is not very much left to do on the farm animals. I have the pigs and the geese. I'm going to put a bright orange beak on each of the geese and on their feet, and then I'm going to do a Reichland flesh shade on the pigs. So let's do the orange first. My very, very busy Red Grass Games wet palette, which I love very much. And this is clear orange, Vallejo model colour clear orange. With that done, wash that off, put the lid back on the painting palette and give the flesh shade. Now I'm not a big fan of Games Workshop paints or Citadel paints very often, but their shades are superb. I use, obviously, like everyone, I use Null Oil, like there's going to be a shortage tomorrow. But I also love the flesh shade. I have other shades. I have shades from other companies, lots of different ones. I am a hoarder, which is probably apparent by this point. But there's something about the Games Workshop shades that they just get right. Something I always do is I take it off of the top of the lid before I go into the actual pot. Do any of you do that? Take it from this little bit here where it gathers before you put your actual brush deep into the mix. Maybe I'm completely barking, but I've always done that. Even to the extent sometimes I will re-shake the bottle to get more up there. I suppose just goes to show that habits are strange, aren't they? I'm really rather pleased with how they're coming out. Just goes to show simple techniques. It works. It is the same evening as painting the pigs, but I've put a fresh, clean sheet in my painting palette. I was feeling a little uninspired, I almost gave up for the evening, and then I realised what it was that was bothering me. I wanted to clean my palette, so I did. I've even given it a good wash. So I've cleaned it all out, washed out the underneath, scrubbed out the tray, and now I'm feeling absolutely ready to have a go at some more Ruffians. I might even try and shoot some Watch Me While I Paint. So let's get that set up. Once again, I warn you that I'm not very good at painting, and I'm even less good at painting when I'm being filmed like this. And I will probably take it out of shot and do all sorts of nonsense. But I'll give it a go. I have my little, you can't see, I have my goggles on. There we are. Nice bright colour for him. I am going to stop filming now. Because I'm getting tired and I'm going to finish up very shortly. It is 10 PM. So that is that. What you can see around the base here is where the PVA I used earlier has formed what looks like damp patches. And I'm going to make a bonus out of that with some bright green, which will focus in a second, maybe, some bright green that I'm going to very, very lightly dab in. Very, very lightly. less is more. I'm going to stop there. I don't want to overdo it and overwhelm it. That is looking very nice. This next technique is one that's been bubbling in my mind for a little while, and I'm going to try it out live on camera because I never learn. What I'm trying to do is make some like creepers or vines or something which are going to go down the side of the tower. And the idea I've had is to put some PVA there. So my homemade flock, sawdust, PVA, paint. And this is my secret ingredient. This is coconut fibre. And it actually comes from the coconut fibre that you'll buy in any good gardening emporium, which you use to line inside hanging baskets. What we'll do is we'll cut some of this off. This is spare that I've had lying in my drawer for ages because I am a hoarder. And what I'll do is I will run that through the glue, which is just neat PVA, which might turn out not to be a good idea. As I say, I'm making this up. And then I'm going to run it through and try to pick up the flock. And now you can see the flock has adhered, and I'm going to go and hang this up to dry, and I'll return at some point, hopefully, with it looking good. And here we have the finished cottage, which has the little path that I want. It has a dead tree just to add some interest, and I think it looks quite nice. I'm quite pleased with that, and I think that'll be good enough for the tabletop. I might come back and do some more, but I don't want to over clutter the actual layout. I want to be able to move around on it, so I'm happy with that. And with that, that is this build, my first extended one, completed. So I better get to put all these clips together into one super long video. The wash on the pigs has gone on nicely, but it has left them quite dark. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very light wash of light flesh from Vallejo, that's light flesh, over the top of them to tone them down a little bit. That is done, and they are looking a much better shade now. Much less peach. So now when they're gone off, I will put them in place on the model. We're getting close to finishing that one. So now we come to gluing these pigs down. I've put them in place where I want them to be. I'm going to use super glue gel, which should put them in place quite nicely, and then that will be that done for today. I haven't yet decided where I'm going to put the geese, so I'm not going to put them in until I've had a thought. Well, there we are, the 5th vlog vlogged. Thank you for watching, if you've got this far. It's another long one, but hopefully stacked full of interesting video clips and useful tips, and hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, please do let me know below. I love reading the comments and responding to them. And also, if you are not yet following, please do subscribe. Those numbers do mean the world to me, and I'm above 100 now, which I never thought would happen. So that's really, really cool. If you do subscribe and you haven't yet ding the bell, please, again, ding that bell. That means that you'll be informed whenever I publish a new video. Now, I am sticking quite well to my routine of at least 3 videos a week with my vlog on a Sunday. So there's plenty of content for you to enjoy, should you choose to do that. If you don't, anyway, thank you for watching my video, and I do hope to see you again soon on Beard Clipper.